Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Om Ishwara Om Shanti Shanti Om Namaste. We are seeing the Swamiji explaining the common features and the uncommon features of Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha meaning Satchit Brahman, conscious existence, the only reality. And Prakriti means Maya or matter slash energies. Matter and energy, they are both uh, inert, let's say. Therefore, objects that can be seen and experienced. And remember, I have given you two examples before. The eyes see can see everything in the world, but can never see itself. So, and the interesting thing is, anything we see in this world is a proof, is enough proof that we have eyes and we have the eyes producing vision. So our sense organ it proves itself, but without me having to objectify it physically. But it's just by allowing me to illumine and reveal the seen world, it's proof of its existence. How simple all these analogies, these metaphors can be. So we have consciousness, and it is self-revealing. It proves itself by allowing us to be conscious of the world. Huh? So we don't need any more intellectual proofs between us here. We just need to somehow, get it and not forget it, not allow it to escape it. And that's where I have been emphasizing the need for nididhyasana. And nididhyasana is something we can carry on during our day. It's not, when we sit in our meditation cushion. Every time we experience consciousness and by which we experience the world. So we experience the light and the objects of experience revealed by the light. So if we carry this through our day-to-day, ordinary experience of life, it consolidates, and then we have this firm and clear and not subject to doubt and forgetfulness self-recognition. You are recognizing the self, the consciousness, without which you don't experience anything, you don't hear anything, we don't think of anything. So the eyes can see everything, but the eyes cannot be seen by any other sense organ. The mind cannot see the eyes either. So the eyes, physically speaking, cannot be seen by any other means, such as the other four senses and the mind. But the eyes do not need anything objectify and see it because it's self-revealing. It's self-revealing, so it is consciousness. Nididhyasana is just to live a life from that perspective of knowledge, understanding, until somehow it manifests as a certain transformation, a certain experience. So, I have been long enough going about saying that there is nothing of experience within Vedanta, within self-knowledge, and this and that. It's made out of only knowledge, only knowledge, only knowledge. But I lately I'm having to review a lot of these assumptions or conclusions or prejudices I had even against people like uh, Nisargadatta Maharaj and Ramana Maharaj, because they were not teaching Vedanta. So basically, there is the knowledge, the Vedantic knowledge, the understanding of what these incredible scriptures reveal with such a clear, undisputable logic. It's so important for the intellect because Ignorance must be revealed, but it's revealed only to the point, to the extent that not only we know it, but we are it. And there is an experience which is I am Brahman. It's experience the world from the perspective that I am consciousness experiencing the world through the body mind sense complex. This is an experience. So what distinguishes self-knowledge from academic self-knowledge and direct or paroksha jnana is that you begin experience consciousness not as an object, but as the subject, the ultimate illuminator. So, and this we gain by, digging into it, going into it, inquiring into it, and observing this simple experiential element we see in this Vedantic process, which is the observance of that which is never not present. It's there shining in the human intellect. And as a hum, which unfortunately has defined itself as the physical body, but under certain revision or re-examination, it can just correct that wrong assumption and define itself as just the ultimate light, the ultimate pure consciousness. So, therefore, the eyes cannot, oh my God. Okay, people send me messages. Let me stop this one. No, I cannot stop that. No, I can't. Just a second. I have to put this one on airplane mode. So I'm saying like the eyes can see only itself as a reflection in the mirror. Consciousness can see itself as a reflection upon the subtle body of the human jiva. Okay, and by the human jiva, it can capture its own reflection the same way our eyes can capture its color we see the mirror, but it needs to have a reflector. A reflector is the subtle body. Subtle body is going to reflect consciousness, but only if we have the Vedantic Upanishad Pramana. Otherwise, we're going to read that and we're going to look, into this mirror composed by words and concepts, we're going to see that, and then we're going to see only philosophy, good ideas about myself. But no, the seeing, the vision has to be such that you see the reflection, and by seeing the reflection, you understand that you cannot have a reflection without having an original thing, that is somehow is reflect. This reflection is the hum. We experience this hum as soon as we get up in the morning, and it is reflect consciousness, and the nature of this reflection is identical to the original consciousness in its fundamental intrinsic true nature. So we have this reflection, such as the reflection in the mirror that allows the eyes to see its color. We have this reflection all the time. So I was so critical of experiential expressions of self-knowledge, even from these Mahatmas, that they are so high up there in terms of self-realization and purification, such as Raman and many others. I was critical about them. But in truth, because they say, okay, people talk about this reflection as a state of samadhi, okay, ananda, bliss, and so on. And Vedanta has a point when it says, so don't take the reflection to be reality, because this experience of ananda is a reflection of your true nature. Once your mind is purified, and then you're going to have the reflection is going to feel like ananda, like peace, like bliss, satisfaction, love, and so on. So those are reflections. But all we can get are the reflections. because consciousness in its original nature is not an object that we can experience. We experience the reflection. If our reflecting medium is too rajasic, too tamasic, the reflection is going to be no good. We are not going to apprehend what is behind those thoughts, those emotions. You understand? We're going to see all those superimpositions, thought, feelings, emotions when we are in deep meditation. And we're not going to see the purity of consciousness behind all these superimpositions. So we have the apparatus being purified, by following Kama Yoga, Dhamma Yoga, Upasana, and so on, Shravana and Manana. And then we capture this reflection. We understand that there is a piece of satisfaction, and what Vedanta brings to the table here, which makes total difference, is like when you enjoy that experiential ananda, know that that is just a pointer or an indication, that the original ananda is your true nature, but in experiential terms, to you is available only its reflection. So don't stop as experiencing the reflection and believing that you have to produce such a state of mind to have the reflection, to have the purity of reflection upon a sattvic reflector. Don't stop at that. Don't stop only on the experiential level of that samadhi. So you have that state, you recognize consciousness, don't care for the experience of bliss, although I mean it's so beautiful to experience peace and love and so on, but don't be satisfied with a state that comes and go. Take that state to inquire even deeper to see if consciousness is not this experience, because this is just a reflection, and then what is original consciousness? And only then you can get the knowledge, the direct parokshayana, because that original consciousness you can only understand by direct knowledge. Direct knowledge is a kind of intuitive knowledge, which is difficult to understand. You understand? You have to follow the reflection, enjoy the reflection, enjoy the bliss, never be satisfied with a state that come, stay, and go and modifies, but use that state to say, okay, now I have enjoyed already a few minutes of bliss. Now I want to inquire into the nature of this bliss. This bliss is a reflection of my true nature. And then what is my true nature? And then we have the scriptures, and then intuitively we say, yes, I am of the nature of Satchitananda Brahman. And I want this to be a knowledge not subject to forgetfulness. I want to be still. Once this direct self-knowledge takes place, and then only then the individual is free from the need of producing again and again a mental state of samadhi to enjoy its reflection. You understand? Because you got into the real thing by what? By means of knowledge, which is not just philosophical knowledge, it's direct knowledge, which is something that is difficult to explain. It requires intellectual understanding, but yet when it is direct and then it leaves no doubt behind, it's a full certainty, and we can see by the way we live our lives thereafter, because it must bring a certain transformation to the jiva, so that he can experience life from the perspective of Aham Brahmasmi. So I am God, I am consciousness, everything is happening within me, is a reflection upon me, and so on. And I'm just moving here. Everything is contained within me, and I am conscious. This is the shift of identity that happens through this process. And it consolidates itself more and more as we go into those nididhyasana sadhanas. So the eyes cannot see, cannot objectify themselves. They will never see the original eyes except with a mirror. Even the reflect eyes is object, but the original eye is never objectifiable. Perceivable. What a tragedy. No, it's not a tragedy. You cannot see your eyes, but you can know I have vision because I have eyes. How do I know that? Because I see the world through this pramana. I see the world through consciousness. It's such as a person say, okay, you can never see your eyes, and then want to prove that you have eyes and you have vision. So I don't need to prove it. Just my very seeing is the proof. My very sight, every perception is presuppose the existence of the perceiver. And then the question is to trace back the sense organs and the mind and the intellect and so on until we come to the ultimate pramana, which is drik in the Drik Drisha Viveka. So that which does not depends on anything else to see, experience, and know the phenomenal objects of Mithya. So we know the perceiving is never perceived, but every one of our experience presuppose the perceiver. Presuppose the perceiver. What perceiver? The perceiver that does not change. The mind changes, the intellect changes. There is something that does not change. You are in search of reality. You are not in search of something that appears today and then after some time changes and then keeps changing and then it disappears. No, no, you're in search of something that is never not present. That is the definition of reality. Which takes us from the fear of mortality to the freedom of knowing one's true nature as beyond time and space. Several examples, including the photograph. The photographer or the camera is never in the picture, but every picture proves a camera or a photographer. Again, Swami goes back, and where is this blessed Purusha? And then the final answer is, I am this Purusha. I am consciousness. What a terrible discovery. What a wonderful discovery. I will never meet Purusha as an introduction so that I can say, nice to meet you. Because you are Purusha. You cannot even say nice to meet you, you know. Good to merge into you. We use all these words. You want to merge and to dissolve and so on. You have to dissolve. We need to dissolve our ignorance, our sense of Dvaita, division, separatedness from that which is our essential true nature. How can we separate ourselves from our essential true nature? That without which I cannot exist. That without which I cannot be conscious of this world. I cannot separate myself, therefore I don't need to travel back to join myself to my true nature. Nature is that without which I cannot exist. Therefore, they are just wrong notions, but they are so deeply, profoundly hardwired in the human mind that it usually takes some time. And Vedanta has incredible appeal for people who are intellectually more, more brilliant. And it promises a lot. But it comes a point that we need to go beyond the words. We need to be beyond the logic, beyond the philosophy, and realize it as a direct experience. Aham Brahmasmi is my experience now. How so? You experience Brahman? No, I experience the world as Brahman. What do you mean? As conscious existence, the only reality. So my true nature is consciousness. So what experience that I experience the world, you know, and the experience is different now because I'm experienced from the perspective I am limitless consciousness. And consciousness is God. I see God behind every Namarupa and everything, and I'm so grateful. I am a devotee of this Lord, the only reality. Verse 22, residing prakriti Purusha experience the gunas. born out of prakriti. Attachment to the gunas is the cause of birth in superior and inferior wombs, which means realms or dimensions or births. So here we have the concept that Purusha is residing within Purusha. Reside in Prakriti. Purusha experience the gunas born out of Prakriti itself. So we have two concepts here. One is Prakriti appears as the indweller within everything, Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat. Okay? So it's as if Purusha is residing in the projection of Prakriti, of Maya's Prakritis, and then Purusha is pervading, permeating, penetrating Shwara, Jiva, and Jagata. So it appears that Purusha, or conscious existence, is existence within Mitya as intrinsic, as within, as all pervasive, but it's an all pervasiveness which is totally free from the superimposition of the gunas. But it appears as it is within. It appears as the indweller, It appears as Purusha is experiencing Prakriti because it is the indweller. So the indweller helps the Jiva to understand that he's not anything within the physical body. And this consciousness is not part, property, or product of the physical body. In fact, the physical body is an appearance within consciousness, and the goal is to know I am this consciousness, and there is appearance here of this body, that body, that body, that body. Everything is appearing within myself, and I am consciousness, and everybody is a consciousness. Not everybody can say that. Some people may say that, but mostly academically speaking or philosophically speaking. But if you have this knowledge, and if you keep working on this knowledge, consolidating this certainty and fortitude of knowledge, it becomes an experience. Okay, I experience myself as Satchitananda, conscious existence, the only reality, and everything is happening within me or reflect upon me as consciousness. So Prakriti appears as residing within Purusha, and that way it experiences the gunas and the subtle elements and the chemical elements, the entire cosmos, and not only that, it's going to reside within the subtle universe as well as thoughts, feelings, emotions, concepts, memories, the subtle worlds. So it's Prakriti, Purusha appears as within everything because nothing escapes consciousness. Everything is a reflection, a superimposition upon consciousness. So, and then it appears, experience the gunas. So who is going to experience this Prakriti universe? The jivas. What kind of jivas? Jivas from the human realm, animal realm, and vegetable realm. Insects and germs, bacteria, every one of these jivas is somehow experiencing the prakriti of mind within their own sort of environment. So who we are we the prakriti, body, mind, sense complex, or we are purusha? No? So if we are purusha, and we believe we are Purusha, we need to prove it by letting go of our attachments to the Prakriti, the gunas. Attachment to the gunas is the cause of samsara. Attachment to the gunas, attachment to Prakriti, attachment to anything of this world, any configuration, people, place, things, events, all kinds of objects of experience in the physical, vyavaharika, and in the mental, pratibhasika. So attachment to prakriti is the problem, is the cause of birth. And then if you attach to prakriti, but somehow you are interested in superior locus, you're going to be attached to that kind of frequency of energy. And that is not going to liberate you, but is going to cause you a different birth. The, 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 the esoteric or mystical, so to speak, samsara is about uh, wishing to have better births. Here he puts us in the inferior births or wombs or superior wombs, but we can also expand that to superior locus. When we take a break between one birth here and another, we go to one of these locus. Some people they have attachment to Brahmaloka and other superior lokas. huh? They want to be born there. They believe they are going to be there forever. Our scripture says that nothing is forever in Mithya. You go there, you exhaust some of those punyas, or those desires, and then you are sent back here. Attachment to the gunas is the cause of birth. Originally, before the creation evolved, the world evolves, Purusha was neither the subject nor the pratik was the object. There was no subject object duality. So before the origination, the appearance to origination of Mithya, there was no subject object division. Okay, so there was just Brahman or consciousness, one without a second, and there was no experiencing entity. When experiencing entities, who are the experienced entities? The jivas, all kinds of jivas. Before the jivas appear, there were no really experiencer, experience duality, nor non-duality. Okay? So when the jiva appears, and then we have this fundamental duality, experiencer and experienced. Yeah. There were no room for transaction because there was no there were no experiencer jivas. So imagine the situation of the projection of the world, but somehow Prakriti did not evolve in a way to produce jivas, but somehow the universe is there, but there are no living creatures producing this duality, experiencer and experience. When we go to some celestial bodies, they see there is no life. There are not even the most rudimentary kind of life organisms there. And then we may say there is no duality there, experiencer, experienced. When the living creatures appear, and then we have the experienced entity and the experienced world of object. And here we're saying that before the creation, Purusha was there was no subject-object division. And then it said that somehow Prakriti evolved to create these complex organisms with sentience, the ability to perceive your environment and experience it. It may be a totally subconscious experience or a little bit more conscious. So when Jida Purusha get the subject status, so when the universe evolved, naturally the body was also created, the mind was also created, and after the creation of the body and mind, the all-pervading Purusha got enclosed within the body-mind enclosure. So when did Purusha got the status of what is it? Got the status of being when did Purusha get the subject status? when then the universe evolved. So Purusha was never seen as a subject and much less as an object because it's one without a second. This concept came later on, and the status of being the absolute subject came with the Jiva, this complex, intelligent living creature that received this knowledge in respect to the true nature of the Jiva as Paramatma or Purusha. So with the rise of Jivatmas and then the scriptures revealing, some individuals realized that received the knowledge, the information that there was a principle, which is the spirit, Purusha, which is the ultimate subject. And then, so I'm saying something that it is what our scriptures say, that when the prakriti begins developing, and then the five elements appear, and then the five elements they start presenting their the properties, each one of them having their own primary fundamental properties. And then automatically some other creatures, sentient creatures were being formed, with the instrument to capture those properties which are inherent to each one of those five subtle elements. So the universe was evolved naturally, gradually. The body was being created. The mind was being created as well. And after that, we have a complex body-mind. The all-pervading Purusha, gets the impression that now I am enclosed on this construct. Okay, now I'm enclosed on this construct, but it's not at all enclosed because, as we know, Purusha is all pervasive. This idea that I am enclosed comes from the Jiva Atma, but only after some time contemplate this revealed scriptural knowledge. And then he says, okay, I am Purusha, but I still feel enclosed because I'm still identified as within, enclosed within this body. If I lose the body, I lose my conscious existence. Previously, the enclosures were not there because there was only Brahman with one without a second. And then when this Purusha somehow shines within every one of these objects, sentient beings, there is a concept in the mind of these conscient beings after being contacting the scripture, say, okay, I'm Purusha, but somehow I still feel I'm enclosed in the body. I'm still enclosed in the mind. The truth is consciousness is all-pervading and free and unenclosed. Consciousness is its nature, but after the creation of the body-mind of all jivas, it appears to be enclosed consciousness or human consciousness or animal consciousness or reflected consciousnesses. Just as we have got an enclosed space after the creation of wall. So we build some walls and then we cover it with a roof, and there we go. We have enclosed space. So our parents, they make love, and then a babe is the result, and then the babe is consciousness appearing as enclosed in a small little body, the body of the baby. So this is all mithya, creating those kind of concepts in the mind of spiritual seeker looking for consciousness, looking for moksha, freedom from the enclosement. So all these analogies serve only to the purpose of understanding that the same way the space was never enclosed within a room, a house, or a clay pot, consciousness was never indwelling or enclosed within any jiva, body-mind complex. So the idea is that appears to the mind of the jiva that the moment I build a house and then I'm enclosing this space, and there is something to it because from the experiential utilitarian angle. So one could say, I don't need a home. Why? Because I live in this space. But this space does not really translate to be a home, a house, protection from above, yeah, some threat comes from the sides and so on. So open space does not have much of any purpose, or I would say, I just said the word utility. Okay, does not have much of utility. So the same way, when we think of consciousness as all pervasive and all, not as a experience entity, but the true nature of everything, and then because it's not enclosed, we'll say, well, who wants to be consciousness if there is no utility? What I get out of that if I'm consciousness and yet huh, I cannot experience transcendental bliss as limitless consciousness because I don't experience anything. I cannot be experienced as an object, and I don't experience this superimposition in truth. I experience through the jiva. So what is in it for it? For the jiva, there is something to it because consciousness, Purusha, can experience the world believing that I am a small and limited finite entity. Or I can experience the world knowing that my true nature is freedom, limitlessness, and infinity. So what changes for the Jivatma, for as long as he's still hooked up to the body, he's going to experience the world in a different way. This is what there is to self-knowledge properly assimilated. No? But so much work just to get that. We see last class the beautiful analogy of the river coming down, and Lynn shared beside that passage from Khalil Gibran, and it says a lot in terms of a metaphor. Why to be a small, limit, time-bound experience entity if I can embrace and live from the perspective that I am the open space? I don't serve any utility because somehow I don't need any utility to begin with. I'm content to see myself. I don't have any need for anything to be added to myself, no special experience, no special security such as an enclosed space of a house. So this is the meaning of freedom. So utility or usefulness. Once the house walls and the roof, and then we have an enclosed space, useful space, transactable thing in the same way previously it was unenclosed consciousness, now it is enclosed consciousness. This is all in the realm of misapprehension of what it is. No? The subject principle, Purusha, and then the whole world becomes an object. Now, if the body mind enclosed consciousness, and that becomes what? The Purusha, the subject principle. Then the whole world become an object. He's working on the concept of subject object. If I am the body mind, I am an object, believing usually to be the subject, but the subject is something altogether different. And knowing I am the ultimate, absolute subject is what brings about the sense of freedom and peace. Therefore, I want to become Purusha. I want to become consciousness. When people say, I want to become consciousness, and then you become conscious, and then you become Brahman, no? It means to say, I used to criticize so much this statement. It means to say that only when you properly assimilate this knowledge, and then you're going to experience life from the standpoint of I am Brahman. I have an experience of the world from the standpoint I am Brahman and the world is a mere superimposition upon myself. This is an experience as well. You are not experiencing Brahman objectively, but you experience the world from the perspective of everything is Brahman, therefore I am Brahman. I am the subject principle. So that which appears to be the enclosed consciousness now becomes free, limitless consciousness or space. No, it does not become, but the world become is also acceptable because it becomes to the extent that you understand that you have always been limitless space appearing as enclosed space here and there. You have always been limitless Purusha appearing as the body, mind, sense complex of all jivas. Once you set yourself properly and correctly as the subject principle, the real consciousness, the only absolute subject principle, and then you begin seeing the whole world as an object. And what is there in that whole world? Our very body, mind, sense complex. Okay. The material energetic aspect of this body mind entity, the experience entity, must be seen as well as part of this objective world. Therefore, consciousness becomes a subject, again, the same expression, when it is enclosed. Consciousness becomes the subject experience entity when it is enclosed. But consciousness without the jiva, without the duality, the jiva, it does not receive the status of the subject experience entity because subject stands only in relation to object. Subject, object, subject, object. Okay. So only when it appears as the indweller, it appears as the Jivatma, and then it appears as a subject, and the world appears as an object. And then I will have to go and see, let's go into the definition of subject and object, because, and that is Vedantic process, challenging the idea that the body-mind is the ultimate subject. And I have seen that in every Upanishad, we trace back the subject until we go all the way back to Purusha or Turiya or Drik, you know. An open space becomes a house when it's enclosed. Therefore, you never build a house, you build only walls. The enclosed space of a house, because that alone is lending you a space with a purpose to protect you. The utility of enclosed space is undeniable, but the space is not really enclosed. A wall by itself is not useful only if it's closed from all sides and the roof upon, and then it offers a home to someone, protection. All your movement, study, etc., is what houses. Wall is not useful. All your movement, study, etc., is what house is, not the wall. What houses is the enclosed space. Thus, Purusha becomes the subject, Prakriti becomes the object. Then what happens? Okay, so this passage, the transcription made it sound a little bit strange. I would have to listen to it. So, the enclosed space is a house because that alone is lending a place for you to live. The wall alone is not useful. And then, in analogy, all your effort to study, meditate, and whatsoever, all your movement of efforts of sadhanas is equivalent to a house, is what house is, not the wall. What house is What houses is the enclosed space. Thus, Purusha becomes the subject, Prakriti becomes the object. Did you guys understand this passage? It sounds very incomplete or wrong to me. He's trying to make an analogy, and then he brought this concept of our sadhanas, what we do uh, with studying and sadhanas, etc. All your movement. So maybe he's saying that we build a house by doing sadhanas, and then we really build a house and not a wall here and there, some sporadic or here and there sadhanas, you know. So we need to really be extremely dedicated to build kind of a spiritual house in which we can find the proper environment to assimilate the self-knowledge, maybe something in that direction. Because we need an enclosed space, an environment in which we can assimilate this knowledge. It has to be protected by all sides. Therefore, Purusha becomes the subject once we understand our true nature. The body, mind, and all its doing, including spiritual doings, become objects. Then what happens? Go and do some homework. Meditate. Lord Krishna has come to the last pair of topic Purusha and Prakriti. We know that conscious existence exists before the origination of Prakriti and the duality experiencer experienced. Before there was only God, there was only Purusha. The mixture of Purusha and Prakriti is Ishvara. We have seen that. We also saw that Purusha and Prakriti have got some common features and uncommon features. We have covered that pretty much. Prakriti is inert. Purusha is conscious principle. Prakriti is inert. Purusha does not change. Prakriti is changing all the time. Purusha is without attribute. Prakriti is defined by its attributes. And Purusha is Satya, Prakriti is Mit. So Nirguna, Nirvikara, Satya, Chetana, Tattva, Purusha. Prakriti is Saguna, Savikara, Mitya, Achetana, Tattva. Nirguna, Nirvikara, and So very good concepts, important to keep them in mind because those are going to guide us in our Nididhyasana, in our Nididhyasana. Remember, what is guiding me here. So I want to realize my true nature, the only source of sentience, that which does not change, is not bound by time, that which is never not present, that which cannot be defined like this or like that because it has no guna, it's guna free. And that which is the only reality, which is all never not present, And Prakriti, on the other hand, is just the opposite of all of that. I remember Ramji saying that once he met a lady in India, in Tiruvannamalai, and she came to one of his Vedanta classes in which he was talking about the changeless nature of consciousness. And the young lady understood it. And then he says that she disappeared for some time. And then after some time, he met her again. He asked, "How are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I understood it. All I did now for the past several months is to hold on to that which does not change. And then I got it. So sometimes we just need one of these features, if we really go into it and if we really deeply, whether she really got it to a level of certainty and firmness, we don't know. But she got it somehow, according to herself and Ramji, using only one of the features of consciousness to make this discrimination and consciousness and the mind and the intellect. Prakriti being the basic matter, and as a result of this Prakriti's evolution, otherwise called the manifestation, the Panchabhutas have come. And then how he talks about the 14 lokas have come as well. In all the physical and subtle bodies, because every one of these lokas require a certain body to enter these lokas. Every one of these 14 lokas has a different frequency of energy to it. And our bodies need to be in resonance with those frequencies of energies. So therefore, sometimes people say that we experience several dimensions simultaneously because the human mind, it goes through different states, vibrational states, and depending on how we are, we enter some dimension, and we know if we start associating with bad lower energies, we may have some experience. Many times it may appear to be a dream, but it's not. So in which we just we tap into one of these lockers using a certain frequency. I tend to say that it's all the subtle body, but it's subtle body on different levels of dimension. Because even here, Swami suggests that as well. He says 14 lokas have come in all the physical and the subtle body. So here we need a physical body. Down there we need other physical bodies, even denser bodies, and the minds will be also denser minds. And in the upper lokas, we need subtle bodies. Okay. So as we go up, to the upper lokas, we're gonna go with a subtle body, and we're gonna enter those lokas according to the quality of our minds. And that means that the only body-mind complex, which means my own body-mind complex is an evolution of Prakriti. Which body-mind sense complex? This physical one, which is the one that is relevant right now, but all our body-minds that somehow allow us to enter any loka, depending on the vibration of those body-minds, it's all Prakriti. It's all Maya play. Then comes the basic question. Again, Swami, where is the blessed Purusha? So, whatever I see outside is Prakriti. How do I prove? Because they are all subject to change, modification. We have defined the common and uncommon features. The physical body is changing, is getting older, and one day is going to dissolve back into its subtle elements. The subtle body changes sometimes violently. The body changes not as rapidly and violently, but the subtle body, the mind changes sometimes very violently. Thus the world is Prakriti, the body is Prakriti, the mind is Prakriti. Where is Purusha? The question comes. Krishna said that Purusha alone is now available as the indweller of the body-mind sense complex, as the very experiencer principle, the witnessing consciousness. Purusha said that Krishna said that Purusha alone is now available behind the body mind. So the true seer, the true experience is Purusha, is consciousness, which is Chaitanya, which alone we refer to by the word Aham or I. So from the standpoint of the Jiva we say Aham, I am, I exist. No? That is consciousness witnessing its own existence and the world we see, we experience. The very word I indicates a conscious principle, not an inert principle. When we say I am, we have to be conscious to say that, and therefore, simultaneously, we must be existing. So my being must be there present consciously to say I am. There are other beingness of other animals that are present there, but they are not conscious enough to know that they exist and they know that they exist. So the very I that we say over and over again during the day is an indication of a conscious existing principle. And this is not inert. Aham is never inert. The subtle body is inert. Aham is not inert. The moon is inert, but reflect light upon this upon the moon. The moon is deprived of light, but the reflected light upon the moon is not deprived of light. As a parallel. Therefore, Krishna's conclusion is the I, the subject, the experience, the witness is Purusha, and whatever I experience is prakriti, or the gunas. I, the experience, am the Purusha. I, the subject, am Purusha. I, the witness, am Purusha. Whatever is experienced, whatever is an object, whatever is witnessed is prakriti in all locus, in all configurations of body minds. Okay, let's stop here. I have to make some calls. Today, we solved the problem here of the fridge and the computers to discover today that those little things that eat wood have it's all over my floor and everything, making holes everywhere. Now I have a serious business to deal with. And the guy I need to talk to is waiting my call in 5-10 minutes. I need to talk to Sylvia about that. She does not know. We meet again this coming Monday, okay? Namaste. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Okay, my friends. See you soon again. Shwara willing. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Arvinder.
Thank you.
Okay, see you Monday.